Recording and yay. Okay, Michelle, we made it to episode 5.
Yeah. Welcome all our viewers. Thank you so much for joining us here today on the December 13th. We have this amazing full moon in Gemini today. Did you see the moon last night?
It's ridiculous. It was so bright. It was like sunshine.
Yeah, it was super bright. It's going to be even better tonight, and I'm hoping that it's clear. We don't have the cloud cover. I want to speak very briefly to the lunar channeling that I did for this full moon in Gemini.
Is that up?
Huh?
Is it up?
Yeah, it's up. It's on my podcast page. So joyofenergy.com/podcast is where I post my lunar channeling for every new and full moon, as well as the solstices, equinoxes, etc. And I'll just give you the tiny bullet point version about we are many and we are one. There are many truths that ultimately come from the one singular center, the holy center. And so today, as we delve into our topic of intuition, talking about trust and surrender and action in our intuition, there are, we all come with our filters, right? Everyone's intuition has a slightly different flavor. Everyone's truth has a slightly different flavor. And yet, how can we use the Gemini wisdom? This is, and my son is in Gemini. I'm a, son in Gemini. I speak all the languages. I can talk to anybody, right? And it helps to call in those mysteries, the Gemini mysteries, to understand that there are many truths, and ultimately they are all in service to the singular truth. So I get a lot of questions about intuition as a Reiki Master Shaman. I know you do too. And so let's kind of hold that in mind, that intuition is one tool in which we may access the truth, the singular truth, through the many paths of truth.
Yes, and just as in, and I know that I'm big on collaboration, and I know you are too, right? I've had the fortune to, for some reason, collaboration is kind of part of my makeup, and so I've had the fortune to work with quite a few really amazing, powerful healers and different modalities coming from different places and different teachings. And it's always so fascinating, the experience of being in a session or like a workshop situation with another facilitator. We facilitated some stuff together, you and I, and I worked in healing sessions with other people, and that intuitive hit that happens, and how there's a thread of congruency. And then also that flavor, that individual experience of what that is, and how radically different that can be, and then how similar it can be, which is always so fascinating to me when you're working in someone's system with someone else, and you're both having the same experience of what's happening with them. And then one person gets a little intuitive hit, and the other person is like, oh yeah, no, that's what I have too. And that is always so interesting to me, the way that those intuitions lie. And some people have more developed intuitive senses around touch or sensation, temperatures, kind of trauma stuff or past life stuff or childhood things, or what's going on physically or emotionally or spiritually. And, some people are more tuned into a certain frequency. And one thing I've always found is that, like, people have this experience where they're like, well, if my intuition or my gift or whatever it is isn't working in that way that I see the other person's intuition working, it's like not valid, or it's not.
Right. I think you're hitting upon a really important point of, how does your intuition manifest? So I want to backpedal just a second and say to our viewers here, everyone is intuitive. Everyone does have access to that innate wisdom, to that essential truth, that central truth. And yes, it does come through our own filter. So yeah, in examples when you and I have collaborated, for example, you are one of the most talented and tapped in embodiment practitioners, and you receive information through the body. You're one of the best I have ever, like actually probably the best at embodiment and truth through embodiment that I have ever seen or worked with. And yes, I am also tapped into embodiment, but not to the extent that you are. My gifts manifest in, I see very clearly, I hear very clearly. And yes, I can move energy through the body, but I mean, I will always refer to you for that.
Right. And I'm like, Michelle, what do you see?
Yeah, exactly. And so I love that we complement each other so well in that way. I think also, you know, I want to indicate to our people who are tuning in here, if you're not already grounded in your intuition or how these messages come through for you, that would be my first recommendation to you, to pay attention. Are you a visual person? Are you an auditory person? Are you a kinesthetic person? Do you, so how do you learn information? Like, take intuition off the table here for a second and just think about, how do you communicate? Do you use words like, I see, I understand, or I hear you, or I feel this way? That can also give you some really good information to tune into. How is your intuition going to readily be available to you?
Yeah.
And there are some people like me who get all of the things. I see, I feel, I hear, I sense everything. And then there are some people who are really dialed into one or two. And all of those are totally valid. Remember, it's coming through our filter. And what is your filter? That is a really important step to understanding and accessing your intuition, is understand how it's going to come through.
Yeah. And to not judge it, not to judge because it doesn't look like someone else's way of doing their thing. I think that all of us get that. We sort of get the comparison syndrome of, well, if I don't see it, or if I don't hear it, like it just doesn't hit me on top of the head, then it's not true. And we spend a lot of time like second guessing whether something is this an intuition? Is this what I should be doing? Or is this, something else? My mind trying to rationalize something, or I don't know, somebody trying to play a trick on me or something.
Right. Or am I just making this up? Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I've talked to a lot of people, and even after years, especially people who do work that's more like a mediumship and channeling, and I've heard that, even after years of doing this kind of work, like there's that part of me that's in the back of the head, like going, what? Are you kidding? Like, are you serious? You're just making all this up. You're just making all of it up.
Right. Yeah. Right here. Yep. Still have those moments. And I mean, granted, they're much fewer and farther between now than they were at the beginning of my practice. But I mean, that's kind of the first on our list here today, as we're talking about intuition, is the trust. The trust of, yes, this is coming from a divinely guided source. This is not my mind making this up. And how do we learn the difference between those two things? How do we learn, this is mine, this is not mine? This is something that my brain is imposing upon, or my mind is imposing upon the situation. This is something that is coming from outside of myself as intuitively guided information.
Yeah. Well, I think that word trust is really important, because for so many people, there's a generalized sense of lack of trust in life, usually stemming from some sort of childhood thing. And sort of we get that message early on, life isn't safe. It's not safe to trust the person who loves you. It's not safe for whatever. It's not safe. And that sense of trust is eroded and is kind of, bleeds into everything. And then we find we don't even trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that, if that is the case, then there really is this need to kind of go in and go inside and really look at, those childhood things, and do that inner child work of kind of sorting through and finding that baby child who didn't have trust, and holding it and feeding it with love and safety, so that that inner sense of trust can start to be reawoken.
Yes, and I'm so glad you're speaking to the childhood aspect of this, because children are very clear in their intuition. For the most part, children don't have those filters in the way yet. But how many kids do you know, or were you one of these children who said, maybe, you know, you were at like meeting your friend's cat and you say, oh, your friend, you know, my cat or your cat is saying this, and you make up a thing that the cat is saying, and then you're told, oh yeah, you're just making that up, right? But was that the cat talking to you? Right. My imaginary friend. Okay. I know plenty of people now who look back on this and say, yeah, I had imaginary friends. There were spirits living in my house who would come to talk to me. Right.
Yeah.
Or, and also, you know, our viewers, please do feel free to chat in if you have experiences that you'd like to share.
An imaginary friend.
Right. Imaginary friends. Or
you grow up and you go, oh my God, that was my grandfather.
Exactly. Right. Or a guide, a light being, a guide, or, you know, beings who used to live in the house, or like people who passed away who used to live in your house. Right? This is a thing. But yet, you know, as you were speaking to, we are told as children very, very often, that's not real. Stop making up stories. You're upsetting people. You're making that up. Okay, that's nice.
Don't say that to someone. Don't, you know, because the children will be like, you have something black inside of you. Like, don't say that.
Yeah, that's not nice. Don't do that. And, you know, I fortunately never really had that in terms of like being shut down. You know, I would make things up all the time, and it was always encouraged of, okay, yeah, great, keep writing those stories, okay, what else is this animal saying to you? And so, yes, you know, I'm very grateful for my mom, especially, who was very encouraging of that kind of, you know, blossoming creativity, even though I was probably channeling stuff and actually talking to animals. But for those of us who didn't necessarily have that very encouraging, open upbringing, it is possible to go back and heal that part of ourselves. And I think that's what you were speaking to earlier, is go back and talk to your inner child, create a safe space where, yes, you can talk to animals. Yes, you do see fairies. Yes, you are talking to this flower and it says this thing to you. Yes, you see this energy in this person. That is real.
Yeah. And, you know, whenever I talk about trust, you know, I really always go back into the body and back into the sacrum, and using a ball or even just like a rolled up towel just to stimulate the sacrum and press your hands there and breathe into it and really start to settle down deeper into the body. And I think that what I see physically, embodiment wise, on intuition is that the intuition really is in the back of the system, and that a lot of people, because of this sort of the way that our society is all about pushing energy forward, making things happen, getting things done, being in the front. And then we start meditating on our chakras, and we see the images of the third eye and the heart and everything, and we start really focusing attention to the front of the body, and we're running all this energy in the front of the body. Yeah, it's not really where the intuition lives. It's all in the back of the heart, the back of the skull, where, you know, really that channel space opens up.
Yeah.
And so when working with intuition, I'm very much encouragement of really sinking as much energy into the back of the body, even just laying in bed at night and really feeling the back of the body and the spine and everything that's in the back. And becoming more and more enlivened in the back of the body.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as, you know, grounding into the body wisdom itself goes, and this is a trick that I like to use if I'm having trouble grounding into my intuition or my spirit or whatever, and there's a lot of mental turbulence in the way. Turn off the mind and ask the body. All right, body, does this feel like a yes or a no? Body, what is the measure here? Because your cells are grounded into deeper earth wisdom than your mind. You know, there's inherently this disconnect where your mind is full of projections and memories and ideas and should be's or whatever. And as soon as you get into your cellular wisdom, your body has no agenda other than health and happiness and well-being. Really, that is the agenda of your body. And so when in doubt, drop into your body and ask your body what's the deal here. And there's an exercise that I really like. I know that that you teach this exercise using your body as a pendulum to tune into your intuition.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that, you know, you're really into the pendulum, using the actual pendulum. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's basically something that has weight. It's often a crystal now.
I'll show you. Yeah.
Here we go. On a string or a chain or something, so that using the body's innate wisdom and really getting information. And so maybe Michelle will teach a pendulum class sometime in the future.
I have taught pendulum workshops. So here, this is just my necklace that has, you know, a wonderful, actually my master point on it. And so this is my necklace that here, you see it moving. I can ask questions and get answers from the movement of this pendulum. But when in doubt, you know, if I'm not wearing my necklaces or I don't have anything else on, you can ask your body. Or if you're not familiar with working with one of these, ask your body, use your body movements, get to know the yes and the no of your body, or get to know the, okay, what does my breath do when I'm feeling this way? As soon as I introduce this idea, my breath changes and my heartbeat changes, and that's a no, right? So I know we've spoken in previous episodes about tuning into self-awareness. I feel like this is a huge running theme for what we're talking about. Although honestly, I mean, it's a huge running theme for all the work that you and I both do with our students and clients. Of drop into what is your yes, what is your no, what is your self-awareness, what is your fuck yeah, that feels amazing, versus what is the that's not safe. So by tuning into your cellular wisdom, that is a very easy, I want to use the word shortcut, but shortcut implies that there's something wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It is a very easy and fast, grounded way to tap into your intuition.
Yes. And you know, whether it's kind of like programming, you're like finding out what's the yes, finding out what's the no. And that can be through breath. It can be through doing a little muscle testing. So, you know, kind of the basic, easy, you know, my name is Katherine and that's strong. And my name is Michelle and that's weak. And then going, okay, well, is this something I'm going to do or not do? And here's my yes and here's my no. And then, you know, keep working with that, or moving forward is yes and moving backward is no. And, you know, you kind of let your body sway and get the answer. So there's all of these little muscle testing, and there are like you said, shortcuts, but like tricks to sort of get used to asking. I think it's more about getting used to asking the question, because often we kind of don't even bother asking, hey, body, what do you think about this supplement I'm about to take, or you know, this course that I'm about to take, or whatever it is.
This relationship with this person, how does your body feel about interacting with this person, right? And so I will say all of these tricks, these techniques that we're talking about here, ultimately they are tools. Ultimately, the more comfortable you get with accessing your intuition directly, the less you will need these techniques.
Yeah.
So with my pendulum, I only use that as a backup. That's not my go-to generally.
And you know, we see, you know, people who use cards or runes or like all of the different little tools and techniques that we have. We're reading tea leaves. We're like, those are all amazing because really they're super fun. But once you get to a certain place where it's almost not even necessary, right? Where it's really just you're able to let it flow through you. But for most of us, we need like the tangible something to give ourselves focus and almost pull the intuition out of us.
Yeah, it's a way of channeling the energy and the information that is already there. So with, as far as, you know, tarot and runes and everything goes, and cards, whatever, like I like all those cards, the oracle cards, I like those as much as the next person. They're super fun. I have some really beautiful decks of cards, but they're not my go-to for the intuitive information, because I have, and, you know, they used to be more of a go-to for me as I was still learning that trust. Again, we're still on the trust here. As I was learning how to trust my intuition, I would, you know, maybe say, okay, I feel this energy, I see this thing. And then I would pull a card and it was exactly that thing. So it was using those tools to validate the information that I already received. And the more you practice that, the easier it will be. the less you will need your amazing fun tools. And granted, it's still fun to pull them out. I mean, like I used runes as recently as the other day, and it was great. But there's also, how can you work to come into that space of trust to where ultimately the tools are in support of your work, but not the basis of your work.
Yeah, I love that. And so that, you know, if you don't have your tools, you don't freak out.
Exactly.
That I've been in that space before and been like, I don't have all my magical things.
Right.
And
I don't have my Palo Santo. Opening through the room. What? Oh, that's right. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Great. We're good.
Right. That we can do all of that. I think it's all our you know, intention that's creating the magic.
Yeah.
So I think those are all amazing tools and pieces around the trust. And then, you know, we said surrender.
Yeah.
Which is such a beautiful word and is so key to really having an open channel to being intuitive, is just surrendering into it and allowing it to, like, that sensation of washing through you, that hollow bone. And they talk about the hollow bone or the hollow reed, where we're kind of open and the information, the guidance, and the healing is able just to kind of move through. And that really does take a practice of surrender.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, surrender is not the easiest thing. And it comes back to that sense of trust. Like, is it safe for me to let go?
Yeah.
Of control.
Yeah. What is right? So surrender, you know, there is, I think there's sort of a safety concern in there for some people of, and I come across this regularly between people asking me, when I tell them that I channel information or I'm receiving information, they ask, where is it coming from? Mm-hmm. Or, you know, if people say, oh, I don't feel so good about tapping into that part of my gifts, my intuition, because I'm not sure where the information's coming from, or someone might trick me, right?
Yeah, I've seen, and I know, I think it was last night, between last night and this morning, I tuned into Facebook. I think I saw 4 different posts of spiritual people warning people, you will get tricked by beings who are masquerading as light beings, and they're, you know, warning. It was really interesting that came up so many times in this short little period of time from a bunch of different people.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I know this came up also in the healer's process in the course that you were teaching. And as far as surrender goes, there's, and, you know, perhaps we can speak to that a little bit more in a minute too, but surrender, what does that feel like and what does that mean? So surrender, yes, there is that trust component. There's also, you know, as far as, like, yeah, there's the trusting where the information is coming from, like trusting, yes, this is moving through me, but also trusting whatever intentions and guidance you put in place to keep you safe as you're accessing these energies. That is what allows you to surrender. You can't surrender into accessing your intuition unless the trust is in place.
Yeah, you trust yourself.
Again, yeah, trust in yourself, trust in your guidance, trust in your protection. That is what allows you to move these energies through you. I love that you use the hollow bone reference. That's that is part of what I include in my intention for myself anytime I work on anybody, is asking for allowing myself to be the hollow bone, to allow these energies to flow through me in a state of surrender and service.
Right, which is a lack of judgment.
Yeah.
Right. That we're having a judgment that the healing or the intuition, that the answer or whatever is moving through is going to be a certain thing. It's going to look and be a certain way.
Right.
The outcome is going to be blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Or, by allowing this information to move through me, am I going to say something that will really upset my client? Or, right. Or am I going to say something that sounds really stupid? You know, there's that fear of,
Right.
will I be foolish?
Or nothing will happen.
Exactly. That's that one. I occasionally still have that flare up if especially if I'm getting ready to do a channeling event for a lot of people. I have that little bubble of fear pop up of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get everyone in a channel space and then nothing. But that has never happened to me. That even for all of my years of doing this, that has never happened, and yet it still comes up. But Absolutely. I move through it by surrender.
It is right? Surrender. Like that is the space of surrender that you hit, where you're in that space of trust. Like I've set the container, I've called in those that are of the highest service, those that are only of the light, and I'm going to surrender into whatever the hell is about to happen, because while we can have the intention of maybe this is what I would like to come through in this experience, you know, whether it's for healing or a certain kind of topic or whatever, there's also the, you know, the surrender into what it is. And I don't know very many people who don't have that experience of, especially as those who do channeling, that, oh my God, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then what do I do?
Right. Yeah, there are plenty of people, I know plenty of experts in the field who still have that pop up. And then it's just like, well, then you take a big breath and close your eyes and kind of dive into it. And then it always does. It does show up. Yeah. There was even an event last spring. So wait, no, this spring. So spring 2016 that I was part of. It was a goddess event here in Portland that included, and I was doing some prayer ceremony, like facilitating prayers for the goddess and intention work. And then there were live musicians and kind of a big midnight sort of ceremony. And I met the woman who was holding the big, like, music, you know, she's a wonderful musician and ceremonialist, and she was channeling this ceremony music dance thing. And I was speaking with her about it. She says, yeah, I have to be totally okay with if I get on stage and just sit there. I have to be okay with that, because that's part of what being in that channel space is about, is you surrender. And she says something like, I never know what's going to happen. I never know what music is going to come through. I never know what movement's going to come through, or singing or tones or whatever. And I might just sit there for half an hour. And that is part of that surrender. And granted, I mean, she put, like, the ceremony was amazing. Like, she was channeling all this really beautiful stuff. So that didn't happen. But again, it is part of you put your trust in place so that you can enter this space and trust that you will be taken care of. For those who are working in the intuitive realms, whether this is for your personal or your professional practice, there is so much honor held for beings who are doing this work. And I can assure you, I have done a lot of channeling around, from beings of the light and love, from committees, from guides who are witnessing we as humans on earth, and the admiration and the love that they hold for us, we as humans who are doing this work, again, either personally or professionally, is so high. And I promise you, as you access your intuition, what you're doing is you are, again, returning to that core of truth, that holy seed of truth of oneness. And you are absolutely supported in that. And it is safe for you to surrender into that. Again, as long as you've put your safe protective practices in place, and as long as you have your boundaries and everything else, it is safe for you to surrender into that space and trust that you will be cared for, trust that you will receive the information that you need, and trust that you can be the hollow bone to allow it to move through you. Yeah,
absolutely. That's beautiful, Michelle.
Thank you. I think part of that was channeled just now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I think the space of surrender also, when we're looking at embodiment of surrender, I feel like participating in trance experiences, in dance, in chanting, in sort of the things that get us out of our mind, but then are also we're doing something. I think that those are really helpful for allowing that sense state of surrender.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit about your transformance work? Because I mean, I've had the pleasure of witnessing and being, a participant in your transformance ceremony, and it is amazing work, and that is deep surrender that you do.
Yeah. So in the transformance, I bring together a group of people in a circle and bring sound healers in, and utilizing movement, breath, and sound to create these like waveform patterns of intensifying and then lowering energy using these specific practices that I teach. And using a lot of sound and a lot of movement and a lot of breathing to really give people access to something that is outside the normal experience of walking around, so that then we can open up and have a surrendered experience, because inside of that surrendered experience, there's access to wisdom and information and intuition. And we can open something up and release something so deep and dark and old that it just all comes flowing out of us, and kind of really go into that space of releasing and letting go, and then receiving what we need to receive, and then bringing the light and the love back in. And, for me, that experience, was created purely out of surrender, was created. Transformance was not something that I was like, oh, this is my planned out thing that of course I've put plans into it and I've created it over the years. But the reality of it was, you're supposed to just get in front of these people and enter into this channel space. And then over time, I just kept surrendering into, okay, well, now I'm touching people and surrendering, and now I'm hitting people and surrendering, and now I'm making them hit themselves and surrendering, and like making them sing, and, okay, I'm just witnessing the fact that this is what's happening for this person, and this person's receiving something super light and airy and gentle and soothing, and this person needs to just be like smashed and opened, and this person just needs to receive a song, and this person needs to receive something else. And that takes a massive amount of surrender, for both for me and for the people who are in the experience. And there is often this piece that's sort of back here. Usually when I'm in my channel space, I'm over here on the right, but there's this piece back here that goes in the left part of the brain that's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Don't do that. You're crazy. That's a totally crazy thing. How could that possibly help anyone?
Right. Right. Wondering, what do I look like right now? Do I sound like a total fool? Yes.
I'm a total crazy person.
Right. But again, as a participant, and I can speak as a, dear friend of yours who loves you deeply, participant in this transformance work, and a, if I say so myself, a deeply intuitive person here, like the surrender, the space of surrender created was such that it's like you gave everyone permission to drop in deeper, deeper, deeper.
Yeah.
And
that's really important, because when we do surrender, like when we own that, we give others the permission to do so too.
Exactly.
In all aspects of life.
Right. So I speak to our viewers of, I'd like to give you some food for thought here about how can you, by creating your space of trust and surrender in your intuition, how can you create an environment, a society, a world in which it is safe for others to do the same? How can we collectively, and we're speaking to social evolution and collective responsibility a little bit here, but how can we collectively, as empaths, as intuitive people, own that and trust it and surrender into it, hereby offering all the others out there who, again, everyone has this intuition. It might be like this little tiny wiggle in the back of the mind. How can we normalize that and make it okay, so people can be more deeply connected to that seed of truth, that seed of unity consciousness, from which all intuition comes? So that's my my challenge, if you will, if you choose to accept it.
Yeah. How can we be more surrendered to encourage surrender in others? And, you know, for me, I've gotten some of the best, most like dialed in, you know, intuitions, messages, guidance ever from ecstatic dance, from like trance dancing, trance movement meditation, sound experiences where it's like, oh, there, that's the answer.
Yeah.
And sex.
Yeah.
Right? Because in sex, like there's surrender in sex. There's a sense of surrender in sex. And I, you know, especially for women.
And body awareness, right?
A lot of body awareness and a lot of like really feeling into the body. And so, you know, I feel like that's a place where if you need to work on surrender in
a safe and healthy way, yes.
Yeah, you know, if you have access to, but with yourself, right? With having your own sexual practice, you don't need a partner to learn sexual surrender.
Right. Yeah, that's an energy, and you don't have to, and also sometimes that might not be fair to put on somebody else of, hey, I need you to hold this safe container for me so that I can surrender into this experience. You might be met with a, I didn't sign up for that, right? But it's, yes, I love that you brought that up. Self-practice, running your own sexual energy, running your own energy of surrender. That's a wonderful deep practice. And, you know, I'm sure we need to do another episode on like shamanic sexuality here.
Okay, let's write that down.
Absolutely. I want to move into talking about the action.
Yes.
Speaking of action, let's speak about what. Yeah, stop shaking your head at me. Yeah. What do we do with the action of intuition? So, okay, great. We've got the trust. We're receiving this information. We're saying, yes, I trust. I receive this. I'm honoring this wisdom. I'm surrendering to the intuition. I'm connected to the seed of unity consciousness. That seed of truth. What do we do with it? How do we put it out in the world? How do we make it grounded in the earth plane? What good is intuition if we don't act upon it?
Well, and I think this is vital because what I witness is that the more action you take on the messages that you get, the more that you like go, okay, well, I'm going to show up and I've gotten this intuitive hit that I need to, whatever it is, go on this trip, go take this class, call this person on the phone, you know, do this weird thing in my healing session, whatever that thing is that you're getting this little buzz to do. And the more that you do it, the more that you receive intuitive guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, by saying yes, you're essentially saying, yes, please, more. And, you know, so I also, at this point, want to go back and reference some of what we were talking about earlier about people shutting their gifts down. Where, you know, either as a child or as an adult, I mean, this happens to adults too, where you do receive this hit of intuition and you don't act upon it. Or you're told, oh, that's not real, that's not safe, don't act upon it. And it does fade into the background a little bit. But I promise you, it is not gone. It is always available to you. It is never too late to reawaken your intuition. And the best way to do that is through action. Is if you get the gut feeling, or however you label your intuition. You know, my father is a deeply intuitive person, like ridiculous intuitive, but he would never own it as such. He calls it his gut. I go with my gut. And, you know, very analytical, like masculine brain there. He would never call it, oh yes, my psychic tendencies. You know, he calls it going with his gut, and he acts upon it. And it like ridiculous spot on every single time. It's crazy. And, you know, and so whatever form it takes for you, going with your gut, following your heart, allowing your higher self to speak for you, however that feels to you, act upon it and notice what happens as you do that.
And even when you don't act upon it and you go, oh, I should have, like, I knew I should have done that thing and I didn't do it, or God, like, what I just did because I know I had that intuitive hit. That wasn't what I was supposed to do. To even maybe not be so mean to ourselves at that point, but to acknowledge, thank you so much for sending me that message. I'm really sorry that I didn't follow it. I'm going to follow those messages from now on.
Yeah.
And sort of having that internal conversation with yourself instead of just like beating yourself and being mad at yourself and almost, you know, making it this negative intuitive experience, but
yeah,
really acknowledging
yourself
really acknowledging, wow, intuition, guidance, whatever you're going to call it, my gut, you were so right. You were so right on. Thank you for trying to protect me, save me, encourage me, guide me. I didn't really get it that time, but I hear you. I hear that you were there for me, and I'm on your team. Let's keep going from here.
Yeah, definitely. And then to that, I will throw this wrench in that conversation as well, because, you know, I like to do that. But there are also those times when, and please take this with a teaspoon of salt, when we receive our intuitive hits and we deliberately choose not to act upon them.
Free will.
Free will. We are sovereign beings, and that is okay to do. So please keep in mind, just because you're receiving this intuition, just because you're receiving this information, doesn't mean that that is running the show. You still get to say yes or no. And saying no is not necessarily a bad thing. And it is, like I said, it's taking it with a grain of salt. And so what I like to, I'm trying to think of exactly how to preface this. There's a train of intuitive evolution that I have noticed in myself and in my clients. You start at okay, maybe you're not super aware, and you're basing your decisions on your mind, right? You're not really tapped into your intuition. And everything that you're doing is kind of reactionary of like, oh, I'm noticing other people doing this, and oh, this is what my circumstances are dictating. So I'm basing my life upon that. And then you come tapped into your intuition, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can't make a decision without talking to my tarot cards. I must be totally like, I'm going to follow whatever spirit says to me. I am like, to the letter of the law of I must tap into my intuition. And if I don't get an intuitive hit, then I don't do anything. Right? That's the opposite extreme, overcorrecting. And then you come into the place where you kind of bring those together and say, okay, I'm a human being. I have a human mind. I have a human body. I have human relations and experience. And I am a divine being. I am a divine embodied being. How can I meld those two aspects of knowledge together in order to have a really grounded, holistic decision-making process and understanding of how the world works? It's like you come full circle to making your decisions again as a grounded, embodied being, while being able to access that intuition and higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And you should write that. That seems like it should be like a really cute, like
meme or something.
Not like a meme, but almost, I don't know, almost like animated little thing, or maybe not animated, but I don't know, like a cartoon or something.
Cool. Thank you.
A flow chart of intuition.
Ooh, I love that. I have other flow charts too. I'll save that for another time. Yeah, I've got all sorts of things along that line. What is the cyclical nature of
shamanic flow chart extravaganza?
Right? Oh my god. Children's books.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So viewers, if any of you know authors of children's books or illustrators, please send them my way. Yeah.
One thing what was I thinking when you were talking there, and something came up, but I don't remember what it was. So it must not have been that great.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about intuition and we're talking about like following it, not following it, or guidance, sometimes we're getting that really strong intuition. It really is from inside of us. Sometimes it's not from inside of us. It's sort of from maybe our guides or kind of our higher self, or, some being that's connected to you in some kind of way. And I know for me that I received messages that were very clear about things that I was supposed to do. But if I had followed them in the first moment that I had received them, it would have been a fiasco because I was not ready at all.
Yeah.
You know, getting the message that I was a healer, or getting the message that I was supposed to channel in front of groups of people, or getting the message that I was supposed to do men's work.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of messages that were really big, where I knew deep in my soul that that was true, and I was scared out of my mind, and I didn't know how to do it, and I wasn't prepared, and I didn't have, you know, all the tools that I needed, and I wasn't fully maybe grounded or inside myself. My practice wasn't strong enough to be able to hold that container. You know, I think that sometimes we receive messages from maybe, you know, beings that aren't so connected to our human reality. And
or also, time is like linear time is an earth phenomenon.
It's not the same, like that their experience of time isn't the same. And so sometimes we get a message, it's an intuition that we should go and do something, and maybe it's just not time yet, and we can beat ourselves up. I know that I've definitely been in the experience of kind of like beating myself up. Like, I know I'm supposed to do this thing. Why aren't I doing it?
Yeah. So giving yourself some freedom and flexibility. Again, we are sovereign beings. Earth is a free will planet. You can say yes or no. You can also say yes, but not right now. Not
yes, when the time is best.
Yes, exactly. I am invested in saying yes and claiming this intuition when the circumstances are in alignment. And now that I have this intuition, okay, it's like planting the seed to catalyze movement in the direction of actualizing, of taking action upon that intuition.
Yes.
So it doesn't all happen.
Seeds take a while to grow. Like, to get to fruit, to flower from a seed is quite an extensive experience. So like, not being so hard on ourselves that, oh, I planted the seed and that I haven't gotten the fruit yet, but that it's in a progress, in an evolution, and, you know, following that intuition as to when to water and when to feed, and, you know, those pieces too around our little seed.
Yeah. And how can we hold the overarching intention of that intuition of, you know, for example, I will share an example of one such seeds that was planted for me years ago. I don't even remember how long ago. It might have been 10 years, at least 5 years ago, definitely like a good chunk of time. You know how people ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see this going for you? Right. And for really consistently, even as a 20-year-old person, my answer was, I see myself traveling the world and speaking. I have no idea what that's going to look like. I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about. I have no idea where I'm going to be traveling. I have no idea, you know, like, none of the hows or the whats were in place yet. I just knew, okay, something about what my gifts hold involves me speaking to large groups of people on a global platform. And I have held that intention for the last several years. Again, 5 to 10 years of this intuition of part of my work is involves holding a global platform to be a spokesperson for this kind of work. And I am slowly starting to have grounded actionable experiences of that intuition. Granted, this came years ago, but, you know, traveling with you to teach our workshop at that retreat, that was an example of that. Speaking at, like, I've been invited to do lectures at various shops and various events. That's part of that. I've already referenced in May, I will be speaking at a couple of big events, potentially. Like, one of them, the organizer was asking me, are you comfortable speaking in front of 800 people from all over the world? So, you know, it's slowly starting to come into actualization of, and also this is a global platform in which I am speaking to a lot of people. And
you had to travel across town to
I had to travel across town to get better internet. Right, so not quite the global level yet, but I'm getting there. And we haven't really had much crackling so far, so
this has been a great connection. And I think that piece, what you're speaking to, is like having that intuitive hit, that knowing this is what's going to happen. And I know this is what I'm talking about too, in these different scenarios of I'm supposed to do men's work. Okay, what does that mean? I don't even know where to begin with that. But then just, okay, what's the first thing that I can do to create that? Even if it doesn't make sense, because a lot of these things that come through for us that are really coming from our soul, like it doesn't make sense. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, how could I be that? How could I do that? How am I going to get there from here? This is so far away from that.
Right.
Just that action. And the action is not maybe doing the thing. The action is maybe doing the tiny little piece of writing something about it, or just starting to tell people that you meet and your friends and even your family, like starting to tell just that first person, hey, think that I'm going to do this thing, or I think I'm supposed to do this thing. Like this feels really alive for me right now. This is really interesting me. Starting to do some research, starting to like, okay, well, who else is doing this kind of thing?
Right. Even that is taking action upon your intuition. So I think, what we're both kind of saying here is like, yeah, there are some sort of immediately actionable intuitive hits that come through of, oh, go, intuitive hit, go talk to this person right away. Okay, I'm going to go talk to this person right away. And then, it ends up being this amazing conversation and they're, supporting you and whatever, right? So that's pretty immediate validation of intuitive hit. But there are also these longer term, deep truth, intuitive hits that are going to take a while to be revealed. And you can still take action on them, even if it does seem like this big eventual goal that you have no idea how on earth you are going to come into grounded earth plane reality of this. Like you said, I love that you said write about it, tell people about it, start just looking into it. That is taking action upon your intuition. That is saying, yes, please, more. Okay, so all right, I received this hit, I'm supposed to do men's work, or I'm supposed to do speaking work, or whatever, or I'm supposed to write children's books, right? Whatever the intuition is, okay, maybe go to the library and look at some kids' books. Or maybe do you have a story, and how can you start, talking with children and sharing stories, or whatever it is. Do the tiny steps to say, again, to your guidance, you're saying, yes, please, more. And so then more intuition is going to come your way. More people are going to come your way to support you. More resources are going to come into your awareness. As soon as you say yes, then more will keep circling into your field to help bring it about and make it more actionable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions from anybody? Please do feel free. We are about to wrap up here, but does anyone have anything that is niggling at their intuition? Any ideas or any questions, or if you feel called to share? If not, also you're free to send us a private message through our Facebook page, Shaman Sister Sessions. Or you can email us at shamansistersessions@gmail.com.
You do that so well. It is such a hard thing to say.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And absolutely feel free to chat with us afterward on our Facebook page, reach out to us and let us know what's going on with your intuition. Let us know maybe, oh, wow, I have this great idea. And maybe we're the first person that people that you're going to tell, and that's going to get the ball rolling. And we would love to be that for you. And if you have any questions or ideas about something that you would like us to talk about and cover, I love this topic that we just had, and sort of all these different little action steps that you can take. So we hope that you're going to actually take these home with you and try on some of these pieces around following your intuition and your guidance. Mm-hmm. But anything else that you'd like us to talk about on a later session, we would love to be able to kind of give you what you're looking for.
Yes, we're open to topic suggestions. Please let us know.
And you can watch all of our former sessions on our web page. We're still developing, but
yes, Currently, yep, the link is on our Facebook page, Shaman Sister, so the facebook.com/Shaman Sister Sessions. There is a link to where the videos are hosted on a page on my website currently, although we will be moving into a collective site at some point in the future. Yeah. But for now, thank you so much. It is always an honor to offer our thoughts and our work, and such a pleasure to witness you in your work. So until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.